marketing, webinar, chat, bit of sharing, whatever you want to call it, with me, Miles from Miles Marketing. And this week's topic is less is more, effective messaging. Now, we'll dive into this pretty soon, but I just wanted to remind you all that every single Tuesday at 12:30 I go live, and when I'm not live on LinkedIn, I look after people's marketing for them as an outsourced marketing bod or person. I also have a range of bite-sized products. So if you are interested in tapping into a bit of what I can help you with, then please jump on, visit my website, and you can see all the details there. Right, we're a minute in. Let's dive in. I couldn't do less is more about effective messaging and blab on for the next half an hour, could I? Right, so here we go. Now, less is more, effective messaging. This is a pitfall, if you like, that I see time and time again. And where I think people really fall down is that they think that they need to explain everything all at once. And the answer to this is very short: you don't. The first thing you need to do is to grab people's attention. We in this modern world are bombarded like never before with multiple messaging. So when I grew up in the 1970s, there was, three TV channels. Only one of them had adverts on. Yes, we had newspapers and magazines, but apart from that, the advertising that we saw was maybe on a billboard. Maybe someone had sign written their car. Maybe we were looking at radio adverts in terms of audio, but social media wasn't invented. The web itself wasn't even a thing, right? And what's happened now in the last sort of 20 years or so is that we've become a little bit ad blind, I'm guessing, right? So I've got a few sort of stats for you on this. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the sort of stats and then how you can sort of overcome these things. I'm just going to check and make sure that we are indeed live on the internet, which we are. So if you have any questions specifically, please jump on and ask away, and I'll do my very best to answer them live on air for you. So let's have a look at some of the stats. I'm looking down because obviously I made some notes. And certainly in the digital world, we talk about impressions. In the real world of sort of print and TV, we talk about eyeballs. But in terms of an impression counting, it means that it needs to be visible for at least 1 second to the user. Okay, just a little interesting stat for you there. And a study that tracked your eyes, or tracked people's eyes, by InSkin Media, they found that online adverts needed to be on screen, right, visible, for 14 seconds for anyone to take any notice. I mean, this is a really long time. When I suppose there might be a decent amount of dwell time when perhaps you're on your desktop and you're not short on time. But when you're scrolling around the place on your phone, you are definitely not spending 14 seconds there. So a lot of these online ads are actually getting missed. So we need to make them really effective. The same survey, they surveyed 4,300 people, so it's quite a large group, and they found that actually by tracking people's eyes, that 25% of visible ads were never looked at, never even looked at. I also saw a Nielsen survey while I was doing some research that said that actually this figure is more like 35%. And I would say that Nielsen, they've probably got it on the mark there. So 35% of all ads that you see digitally you don't even see them. You're not even seeing 35% of what is on the screen there. I mean, that's quite staggering. And then a third of adverts achieve a gaze time, so when you look at them, right, of 1 second, right? And actually, this has been refined to between 0.7 and zero point 0.9 of a second. So, when you think about creating content and creating adverts, especially around social media and your website, you need to be thinking about grabbing people's attention very quickly. So in terms of the real world, so when you're out driving and you see a big billboard, the average driver has between 5 and 10 seconds to read a billboard. And again, look, there was loads of caveats around how fast they were traveling, where the billboard was it they have to look back and all this sort of jazz. But we shall see, right? At the end of the day, we're talking about a very short period of time, right? Just 10 seconds. Now, the amount of time that you've got to grab people's attention, and look, everyone. I was going to say something about something everyone has, and they all have an opinion on it, right? But a lot of people have got different opinions on this. That's my point. A lot of people would say that you've got 10 seconds, certainly when it comes to, say, a print advert or somewhere where you're engaged and you're doing a lot of dwell time. But I am going to say to you that what you want to try and do is think about a 2-second rule. Yeah. Think about you've got 2 seconds to grab people's attention and reel them in. And what they're not going to do is to be able to digest a lot of content, or certainly a lot of text, a lot of heavy copy within 2 seconds. So keep this 2-second rule in your mind when you are creating content for your website, for adverts, for anything you do. Think about trying to grab people's attention within that 2 seconds. Now, how would you go about this? Well, I'm going to say that you need to be critical of yourself. All right. You need to be critical of perhaps the marketing people and the agencies that you're using. Look, not every look, there are a lot of great marketing people out there, right? But there's a lot of charlatans as well, and a lot of people that are not experienced. And what do I mean by experience, and why do I think that perhaps I am experienced? Well, I spent the best part of 20 years creating adverts in the betting industry for betting shop windows. Now, we had over 10,000 shop windows around the country, and we used to have to create posters that would grab people's attention. And yes, we used to do lots of market research and ask people what their opinions were on, advertisement A, B, and C. But a lot of my sort of skills, if you like, were developed over being highly critical and having like a really thorough editing process. And, don't take what you're shown first time for granted. Like, put yourself in the shoes or in the eyes of your consumer. Did you get it straight away? Were you able to use the 2-second rule? So I would say ask opinion. Now, asking opinion of loved ones and even subordinates, people that work for you, is not necessarily going to get you a truthful answer. A lot of people are people pleasers. The boss comes out. What do you think of the new campaign? Oh, yes, boss, it's great. Well, you don't need that kind of feedback. You need honest feedback. So these things don't need to cost a lot of money either. So ask people that aren't related to your business what they think. Always ask your marketing agencies to provide you with a number of options so that you've got something to compare and contrast to. And if it's a really big campaign, then I would go to the trouble of doing some focus groups, either organized focus groups where it's a little bit scientific and it's done by a professional, and you're showing them different options and you're asking them what their initial feedback is so you can really refine your messaging and your imaging. But a really cheap way of doing it is printing off copy A and copy B, and going down to your local high street or your shopping centre and doing what we term as vox pops, stopping people on the street and saying, hey, have you got a moment, please? Could you please just tell me which one of these adverts grabs your attention more? And could you please tell me what was the main message you got from it? And honestly, you will get such an insight into your creative. Right. So what are the most sort of what are the most common reasons that you're and when I say copy, I mean, anything that's sort of written and pictorial and presented, right? So we're talking about things like adverts, leaflets, posters, videos, social media posts, emails, newsletters, websites, brochures, anything, right, that is visually either still or moving, right, about your company, your products and your services. And the things that I think you want to hold really tight in all of your communications are: what's your main message? What's your target market? Does it align with your tone of voice? And does it ping any of your brand values? Think about those sort of 4 things that you really want to, I mean, there's loads of stuff that you can include, right? But just think about those, what is your main message and are you getting it across? So let's talk about your primary message. Think about, and it's probably going to be a USP as well, right? Think about your primary message, and where the common mistakes happen is that your primary message is not concise enough. And I was coming back to what I said at the very beginning. People tend to use 1,000 words when like 3 will do, because it's a common misperception. They need to get everything out there. Well, if I don't tell people about this, then they're not going to know about it. If I don't tell people about this, and if we've got this other option, we've got this other add-on, right? They do need to know, but not at this stage in the process. Advertising and messaging is all about getting your fish on the hook. All right. You've got to cut through all of the noise and you've got to grab people's attention. That is the point. That's the objective. And you want them to understand what your primary message is. So, would it surprise you that that message needs to be between 7 and 10 words long? All right. So, the first mistake is that your primary message is not concise enough for people to get straight away. I'm going to click my fingers again. I don't know why, I just did. The second reason is that your primary message is unclear. All right. You need to keep it simple. You need to keep your target market in mind when you're writing it. So, if you're appealing to a pharmaceutical business that's really sort of technical, then you would write something in a completely different way as if you were a bookmaker appealing to a punter who's going in betting on the dogs, as an example, right? So keep your target market in mind. Here's a really good reason, right, that people miss the message is they're trying to be over creative, or they're trying to be funny, or they're trying to be alternative or different. I'm different. It's one of my values. Do you know what? You can be different. You can be funny and you can be creative. But sometimes if it's not done right and it's not done properly, it'll get missed and people won't get it. So there's a lot to be said by being very concise with your main message. Keep it simple, stupid, right? And make sure people understand what it is that you're offering. Number 3, and then I'm going to look at the comments. Number 3 is that you've buried your primary message. All right. You're making people search for it. Don't make people search for it. Give it to them on a plate. They haven't got all of this time to invest in your thing. They want to understand your primary message, making it concise, punching them in the face so that they know what it is and that they get it. Yeah, that they get it. So those are the 3 main reasons as to why a lot of communications fall a little bit flat. Now, I'm going to just have a look at the chat. We've got Ben on board. Hello, Ben. I'm broadcasting loud and clear. Thank you very much. Laura, oh, I can see Laura cringing now. She says she's definitely a culprit of 10 words when 3 will do. Yes, Laura, I would say you work in progress, darling, right? Long letter Laura, we call her, right? Honestly, it's a little bit of an art, and it's something that, as long as you're aware about, you can start to focus and work on. And I've got some tips here, some practical tips as to how you can handle that. Karen, Karen's in video production. Keeping those messages quite simple. Again, a lot of video production, people think that video is tells a million words when a picture tells 1,000 or whatever it may be, but you can overcomplicate video production. You can miss those messages very, very easy, because sometimes people want to do something really nice and stylish, or dare I say overindulgent, over self-indulgence about how bloody wonderful they are, when they're missing the whole point of the communication. Right? Keep your message in mind, keep your target market in mind, keep your overall tone of voice in mind, and keep some of your brand values there as well, and everything will start to become cohesive. So, practical tips, right, for better conversion with your messaging. And we are talking about your messaging across your website, your social media, your print, your advert in the local paper, your radio ad, your bus sides, your ad shells, like your large format printing, large format especially, right? I mean, I've seen some, it's part of the job when you drive around the place. You look at people's billboards and you try and overanalyze them, I guess, like have they done the best that they can? And I've seen some shocking ones lately. So tip number 1, be critical. And the way in which I would do this, all right, is and especially a lot of people don't have the resources to outsource to copywriters, so they write their own copy, and that's fine, right? Now, if you're writing your own copy, write it in long form, get everything down there, then make sure that you know the point you're trying to make, and start to edit, start to cut bits out. Edit, and edit it shorter and shorter and shorter, and distill it and make it nice and concise. The second thing I'm going to say to you there is step away. Step away from it, go and do something else. Or if it's a really big project, especially with like slides, right? I find this when I'm putting together a presentation, like a slideshow. I dump everything on the slides, and then over the period of a couple of days, I edit it down and cut it out. So it's nice and concise, so people get what I'm trying to say. A good tip here is to sleep on it, right? The brain is an amazing thing. And this, I haven't got any science to back this up, but all I've got is my experience. And my experience is when I'm working on a problem of whatever nature it may be, my brain don't stop thinking about it when I consciously stop working on it. So definitely sleeping on something, your brain continues to process it, and then coming back to it, I find I get better results. Think about the USP, think about the target market, think about the tone of voice, think about your values, think about a call to action. All right, what do you want people to do? Visit your website, scan a QR code, click here for more information, book a meeting, make a telephone call, right? Give yourself a call to action, right? You're only going to know if your advertising or your messaging has been effective. Details. Coming back to the first thing I was saying about details, and Laura, I can see she says she's work in progress. Yeah, we are all work in progress, and there's nothing to apologize for that. So I'm going to talk directly to you now, Laura. And what I would say is this: all of the detail is important. All right. All of the detail is important. It's just at what stage of the customer journey will they be ready for the detail. Okay, so what I'm going to say to you is this: land them with the punch. Okay, get them reeled in. I'm sort of talking fishing analogies here. So a fishing analogy would be you're trying to catch. Look, I don't know. I mean, I've fished in my life, right? But you're trying to catch a mackerel. All right. You will need a specific bait or a lure to catch a mackerel. All right. That's the tool to get that fish on the hook. Now, I don't really have a really good analogy now for once you've got them on the hook. But my point being is that once you've engaged with that customer, the time for explaining all of the backstory and all of the extra information comes later in the journey. So with certainly thinking about, I mean, social media can be a little bit more long form, especially on LinkedIn, but it's about how you then take that conversation and engage them after the fact that you've got them on the hook, metaphorically, right? I don't mean to be too descriptive about it, but think about the engagement of the customer, think about the messaging that they're seeing, and get them to want for more. So using a QR code, here's a good one on your van. Let's say that you have a work vehicle and you've got livery on your van. Do you have a QR code on there? I mean, I'm guessing you park your van outside where you work, and if you work around town, then your van is going to be seen around town. Now, these days, being able to write down a website or a phone number is, well, I mean, people are lazy, right? So make it easy for them. Make it easy for people to scan a QR code and take them through to maybe a specific landing page. Now, maybe having fun, right, is one of your brand values. So let's just play with this now, right? So let's say that you put a QR code on the back of your van and it says scan me. And when people scan it, they're taken to a specific page on your website. And it says, you know, something like, have you been following me? I saw you following me. If you want to, you know, if you want to really follow me, click here for my social media, click here for, you know, whatever me. Sorry, I wasn't trying to make up an advertising campaign on the spot. But my point is that you can have more of a conversation once that person has engaged with your van, right? Right. I see it a lot. Loads of sign writing all over your vehicle is not the way to go. People don't have the attention span to read it all. It might be important to you to write all of your products and services on your van, but people aren't going to read them. So maybe scan here to see all my products and services. Yeah, do you see what I mean? It's about really the right messaging for the right time. The last thing I want to talk about here is about giving things a bit of space, right? This person shall remain nameless, but I had an email come through this week from someone who I'm friends with them and I really enjoy what they do. And there was a number of things going on within this email, but however, the main thing that stood out to me was it was just a whole load of copy. And it wasn't broken up into paragraphs. It was very wordy. I mean, I didn't add up the words, but maybe it was like 600 words or something. It was really quite big. And even though I'm invested in this person, I started reading and I was like, oh. And guess what? I switched off, right? I wasn't invested. It didn't pull me in. My attention span was away from it. And it's only because I was, you know, in marketing mode that I was being a little bit more critical about it. But, you know, really think about what you're sending out. People don't need to see a whole load of detail on an email. Think about what you're trying, the message you're trying to get across, right? What USP is. Think about the audience. Make sure you grab them right at the top, and then you can explain some more to them. Right, I can't believe I've been talking for 25 minutes about this. Any more questions, please pop them in the chat. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit now about visual hierarchy. I know, I'm getting quite technical with this. It's about grabbing their attention in the right way. And look, this isn't rocket science. Headlines, they're at the top, right? The clues in the name, they're headlines. We're drawn to things at the top. There's a reason why you would generally start a blog with a picture or a headline or a graphic. It's because our brains process things this way. Have you ever seen anything where it starts off with loads of text and then there's a picture underneath? There's something just wrong about it. You want to grab people's attention with the headline. Think about the newspapers. This is what they do. This is what they do. They get you with the headline. Then they probably have a byline. They're going to get a photo in there or some sort of visual representation, and then they're going to whack you with a copy, and then they break their copy up, and then they do nice little paragraphs, and they leave some clear space. Think about how you present it. There are two different ways of looking at, say, building websites as an example. There's two very typical ones. One's called the Z pattern. So this is all about how your eyes read a page. So when there's not a lot of text on a document or on a website, your brain will want to scan it like a Z. So it'll go top left. I mean, I know I'm probably reverse when I'm doing this, but as you're looking at the screen, top left to right, then it cuts diagonally down to bottom left and then across to bottom right. So you get this sort of Z appearance. So think about structuring things in that way. If your website is content heavy or copy heavy, then that's more of an F pattern where it starts off top left, top right goes across to left, and then it comes down the left hand side, and it does pop out every now and again, but predominantly the eye runs down the left hand side and is trying to find what it's looking for. So make sure you use sort of good, when I say punctuation, I'm talking about punctuating the visuals of it. And there's a number of things you can do to punctuate your copy on your pages. Think about size. Think about size of text. Make the things that are more important bigger. Think about colors. Think about bright colors to attract attention. Think about contrasts in terms of light and dark, using sort of bold text maybe. Think about the alignment. Think about, where are you expecting to find things? Don't put them randomly somewhere where no one ever expects to find those things. Repetition, repeat things, repeat patterns, make sure it's nice towards the eye. Don't make it a jumble. Proximity, make sure that you put things close to each other that are meant or related to each other. Think about white space, let things breathe, let it be pleasant to the eye, aesthetically pleasing. And then think about texture and style. Think about using bold, think about using underline, italics, caps, lowercase, uppercase, symbols, emojis, right? A lot of people are like, oh, our emojis professional. Well, I don't care. The point is, does it grab your attention? Does it drive home your point? Right. I've got this down to a fine art. I'm going to finish in 30 minutes. Any messages in the chat? Ben's like, that's the last time I sent you an email. I love it. I love it. Yeah. So Karen's saying only one message per email seems to work the best. Yeah. It's your primary message. Take them on that journey once they engage with that primary message and they want more. So here are my top 3 things to be more effective with your messaging and say less is more. So number 1, keep it simple. Make sure that you know what you want to say and then edit. Number 2, focus groups, ask for opinion, do vox pops, do polls, do a little bit of research before you whack it out there. Okay. And number 3, Keep the detail for later in the user journey. People don't need to know chapter and verse there and then. They're not going to read it all. They're not going to absorb it all. Capture them with the headline, with the main message that you want to get across, and then later on in their journey, whatever that may be, then provide them with the extra detail. Okay, I hope you all enjoyed that. It's been lovely to see so many familiar faces online today. If you have any questions about marketing at all, then please drop us a line. I always say send me an inappropriate GIF on WhatsApp. I do enjoy seeing them come through, so I look forward to that. And until next week, I shall see you then. Ta-ta for now.